next. All right, hot happenings part two. So, if you were kind of, following news last week, you may have seen this come across your news feed. So, fashion retailer Zara, they took an L last week. And the reason why was that they released a campaign the prior week, just or like I think it was December 7th or something. They released a marketing campaign that had some images that ended up being rather controversial. And what the rub was, the people for the most part that had complaints about the marketing campaign, they felt that it was insensitive given what's going on right now with the Israeli and Palestinian conflict, right? Israel and Palestine. And they felt that some of the images were offensive with, again, what's going on, and that Zara should have been a little bit more sensitive to that. So what I want to do, and it was interesting because when I first got wind of the story, and the link that I'm going to be sharing with you today is the initial article from WWD that was one of the ones to maybe break the story. I was like, oh wow, I think this is something that I want to talk about on my channel. But then I gave pause because I was like, you know how YouTube is, and like I don't know if I want to talk about anything that's controversial. But as I was kind of going down my own path, I was like, you know what? First of all, this is my show. I can talk about whatever I want. A, but B, I did actually have some thoughts that I wanted to share about it myself. So please, go on this little path with me. I do value everyone's opinion. Toward the end of the segment, I will share with you what my opinion is. But before I share that, I want to actually walk you through what some of the images were, so that in case, again, if you haven't seen it, and you might not have seen it too, because Zara immediately pulled the images from their website, from any other like online advertising. I had to do a little digging myself to find the images, but let me go ahead and show them to you to see what we're talking about here. So here's the first image. Okay, looks like it's in a studio. You see some plaster, sculpture, and the campaign was called The Jacket, which we see right here. So the point of the campaign was all about this jacket that seems to have kind of look a little bit like of a patchwork moment going on. So there's that one. Here's another one. So this is more of a wide lens. Let me come over here so we can get more context with the picture. And where the controversy was that the pro-Palestine supporters felt that showing images with mannequins that don't have any arms and things like that, this looks like it could be a body that's wrapped up. This could look like a potential coffin, things like that. That's where the ire was. Okay, let's look at this one. So then this is just a shot of some of the broken plaster and a shot of one of the models, with like plaster all over his hair, hands, because he's interacting with the sculpture. Okay, so here is Zara's apology. I wanted to read this out to you. This was done via Instagram and probably other outlets as well. After listening to comments regarding the latest Zara Atelier campaign, The Jacket, we would like to share the following with our customers. The campaign that was conceived in July and photographed in September presents a series of images of unfinished sculptures in a sculptor's studio and was created with the sole purpose of showcasing craft-made garments in an artistic context. Unfortunately, some customers felt offended by these images, which have now been removed, and saw them in something far from what was intended when they were created. Zara regrets that misunderstanding, and we affirm our deep respect towards everyone. Okay. So that was the statement that Zara issued. Okay. And as the week went on and there was more talk about it and there were more articles, I did come across another article. This is from Business of Fashion, which I'm a member of. And this seems like it was an op-ed piece just based on the context. But this particular author, Diana Pearl is her name, had this to share. The fashion industry can't seem to learn from its marketing mistakes. This week, fast fashion giant Zara found itself at the center of a social media firestorm for a campaign gone wrong. Called The Jacket, imagery showed models surrounded by broken down wooden crates, shards of drywall, and mannequins wrapped in plastic. Online, the scenes almost immediately drew comparison to photos of the devastation from the Israel Hamas war in the Gaza Strip, which is what I surmised for you. Um, Within days, Zara pulled the ads and apologized on Instagram for any offense caused, stating that the campaign, which was meant to depict, quote, a series of images of unfinished sculptures in a sculpture studio and was created with the sole purpose of blah, 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 the quote that I read to you, had been conceptualized and shot before the war began in October. The post received over 271,000 mostly negative comments. There's no question that Zara releasing the jacket in the current climate was a mistake. The wider pattern, a brand releases a campaign or product that at best insensitive and at worst racist or predatory, consumers hit back on social media. The brand repents. It has become all too familiar in recent years, which in that last sentence, I do agree with that seems to be a cycle that we're seeing. Okay, so I want to share my thoughts on this. When I went down the rabbit hole trying to find the images, and once I found them, I'm looking at them and I'm like, okay, I get it. This is interesting. I understand where they're going. I get it. I get it. Personally, and this is my opinion. So again, this is my opinion. Do not try to come for me. Okay. This is my opinion. And I'm also open to other opinions and viewpoints and perspectives. I think having a healthy discussion and debate about things that maybe we may feel differently on is totally fine. I embrace that. But my opinion is that when I looked at it, I didn't see anything personally that was offensive. Um, I looked at it in the exact way that actually Zara surmised it. And I'm like, okay, job well done there, because when they explain the context of it, it's exactly what I thought. I'm like, oh, okay. They're putting together, the sculpture, and looking maybe from the lens of a museum curator, for example, where you're getting in a big shipment, these pieces are extremely heavy. And then, or if you're building it or, chiseling it, whatever you do as a sculptor, there's mess, there's powder, there are chunks of plaster all over, right? Which we did see depicted in that scene, plastering your hair, your hands, your lab coat, whatever. And the fact too that it was very stark. It was gray, white, because most sculpted what do you call them? Sculptures. Sculptures are usually made of that type of material. Um, so it was very stark. So it made sense to me because the jacket definitely stood out as being a very contrasting color with the black and navy blue colors, right? It popped out. Um, so, and then like the mannequin, I mean, I have a mannequin in my studio right here. Her arms aren't on. Yep. And you put the mannequin on just as we saw in that image, you're twisting it on. So I'm looking at it and I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it from a creative standpoint that I'm like, okay, this is what I see. This is what I'm interpreting. I didn't see anything offensive about that. And this is where my opinion comes in. I feel that, and I don't know if it's a generational thing. I don't know if it's a social media thing because now we have access to everybody's thoughts, everyone's opinions all of one. And people people tend to jump on bandwagons for sure, right? They always want to be on the right side of something. And everyone, again, is entitled to their own opinion. But I just felt like this particular backlash was not warranted. And when I thought about the logistics of it, and again, this was also captured in Zara's statement, when I looked at it and I thought about, okay, it got released early December. So that means that shoot had to take place at least 4 to 6 months prior to this. And they said it took place over the summer. This was before the conflict started. Okay. And clearly that was not intent. Oh, this was another thing that I forgot to mention. Actually, I'm going to pull back one of the images and show you. Was it this one? Yeah. So one of the other gripes that the people that were not agreeing with the campaign shared was that they felt like this portion right here, it looked like the map of Palestine. And actually, when you take this piece that's right next to the guy that's wearing the jacket and you do a mirror image of it, it sort of looks like it. It's not too far from it, but that's not like, are you kidding me? Seriously, this is to me, this is ridiculous. To me, this is reaching. We're looking for things that aren't there. And not to say that people's feelings aren't valid. You can feel whatever you want. But I just think that this is just too far. And I understand why Zara did ultimately pull the ad. Um, I don't think that they needed to, honestly. If it was my brand and that's what I did, honestly, I would say, well, here's the story and the context behind it. And I hope you can appreciate it for what it is. Okay. Now, there are brands that do have major missteps, like, last year with Balenciaga. That was a big deal. And the imagery on that was shocking and disturbing. And that definitely needed to be pulled. But it's just funny, like we can't get through one year without there being like some type of fashion scandal, right? But when I looked at this, I was just like, guys, like I don't see it. I don't think it's substantiated. I don't think it's warranted that there was this backlash and now, everyone's jumping all over Zara for it. I don't think that the images were offensive. I do not think that it should have caused the level of controversy that it did. And this is what I'm wondering, is it a generational thing? Are we just getting a little bit too sensitive, right? Um, there is a line where, wokeness, honestly, I think has been going way too far. And I'm like, it's getting you to the point where you're walking about life and you're like looking, like you're looking for shit to complain about, right? And I'm just saying this with a broad stroke, right? I just feel like the backlash that Zara got on this particular ad campaign was just too much. And, again, I'm open to other viewpoints for sure. But I wanted to, at the very least, after I was kind of noodling and saying, do I want to talk about this on my show or not? I was like, no, I want to talk about it because I do think that it's gone too far. And this was an example where I don't think Zara was in the wrong. But again, I understand why they pulled it. They've got a brand to maintain, right? They want to keep their customers happy. They want to keep the customers coming back. But in the era of being canceled and all that, I understand why they did it. But I just don't think that what I showed you today in terms of those images substantiated them having to take that step. So I would love to know what you think about that whole scandal last week, based off of what you may have read or heard, based off of the images that I showed you and the different the articles. Again, the original article for WWD I'm going to have in the show notes for you. But I'd love to know, do you disagree with me? Do you see it from a different perspective when you saw those images? Did it evoke images of war to you? Or do you agree with my viewpoint that it looked like images of, sculptures coming together in a sculptor's studio? I would love to know. So make sure that you comment in the comment section. Let me know your opinion. And, I want this to be a safe, respectful space. There's no need to be nasty. All opinions are welcome, but I do want to have a healthy discussion about this, particularly if you do have a different viewpoint. I would love to understand. Okay, awesome. So comment, like, share, subscribe. Don't forget, right? We need some love for our channel to grow, because I feel like I have very important messages that I'm trying to share with as many ladies as I can when it comes to their personal style, and a little bit of style therapy, a little bit of fun, fashion news. And I would love for more and more of you to participate and watch